Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is David Novak. I had an appointment up in Evanston today. This is my bag. I brought with me Tolstoy's War and Peace because I had about 2 pages to go on the chapter I was reading, and I hoped to finish it up, and I did finish it up before I got called in for my visit. When I was young, I worked up in Evanston occasionally, and there was a bookstore, Amaranth Books, which I used to frequent. So now when I have occasion to be up in Evanston, I like to stop into the shop. It is still there with the same proprietor. And I do try to come away with something, and today was no exception. And I will show you the things I got, and then just reflect a little bit on thoughts for future reading plans. Plans is probably too solid of a word, just vague thoughts about where I would like to see my reading go in the future, at least the reading of fiction. So I had seen this there before. It's a pristine Everyman's Library edition, and I don't know anything about this translation by Charles and Natasha Hepburn, but I am very happy with my Everyman's Tolstoy, which I am reading, so I thought, well, if I feel inclined to read some more Russian literature, it might be nice to have this on hand. Now, I've read 1 or 2 novels by Turgenev. I don't know how you say his name. And I can't say that it was my favorite reading experience. But I've heard good things about this particular collection of stories. There's a BookTube channel called Reading Ideas, which has talked about it a couple of times. It was apparently a inspiration for Ernest Hemingway, of all people. So possibly I will get into this at some point. I've been enjoying reading short stories in the past year. Well, let me just show you more of what I picked up. Killer Angels. I don't know much about this, but for a perfect copy at $4, you can't do better than this. Steve Donahue has talked about it a lot. It's nothing that I have any pressing desire to read, but one never knows. I've seen the movie, and some of these books have been sitting on those shelves for a while, and I just decided today to grab this one because a friend has been talking about it a little bit on Facebook. He mentioned that Sacco and Vanzetti are in there, and that was the thing that really tipped me over, and I decided I should pick it up. Well, the thing ultimately that tipped me over was I opened it up and read a little bit, and I thought, this sounds like Tolstoy. This is supposed to be the great American novel, at least according to some people. It's a book that I have been aware of since a very early age. It's a book that, not this edition, but it's a book that I remember seeing at my public library when I was a young person, still living with my parents in the suburbs. And Mark at Book Time with Elvis has a real good video out about his approach to the classics. And so I've been thinking about that a little bit, about my approach to the classics. Now, I have a video somewhere where I argued that there is no such thing as classics. There's no genre as such. But he, in his video, rightly points out that if Penguin Books has slapped the label classics on something, or Oxford, then at least there are some people who think that the book is a classic. Now, Penguin has occasional titles which they throw classics on just for marketing, I would suppose. I mean, that is their brand, and they have titles that in no way merit the designation classic. But classic is a thing that, as my teacher Paul Carroll used to say about money, it's a thing that doesn't really exist, except that we all agree upon the fact that it does exist. We believe in it, and so classics exist. And I picked this up to have on hand. It was a decent price. Now, no, I don't need you going over there. Now let me put the book bag aside so I can monitor this fellow. Here's a Anthony Briggs translation of War and Peace. I'm not reading that. I'm reading the Maud translation. He wants very much to climb up there where the camera is, and he would almost certainly knock it down if he does that. So I'm trying to avoid that. I tend to incline toward the classics in reading, particularly if we're talking about fiction. What we call a classic may just be said to be a book which has stood the test of time. Now, a lot of books have stood the test of time that are not classics. Anything, say, by the Marquis de Sade, I don't think you could call his works classic, but they definitely have stood the test of time just because of people's renewed interest in seeing what he wrote. So I picked this up because when I was reviewing my reading for last year, it occurred to me that I had inadvertently or unconsciously read more short books than I otherwise might have, simply for the purpose of providing BookTube content. Now, I did not intend any such thing, but it happened. And I realized, though, I've been reading pretty solidly for 2 years now, after a long phase of not being a very dedicated reader. And I realized that I really like big books. Tolstoy is making that clear to me. I'm 400 some pages in, and there's no sign yet of any kind of movement that's going to be reaching an end. But I like it. I think for me the problem with shorter novels is that just getting into a book is difficult for me. Some people are born readers. Some people grow into it, and other people, it's always a bit of a struggle or a chore to get into it. And not every book is the same also. Jennifer Brooks, who recently died suddenly, had a video about 5 months ago or so discussing the different translations of Tolstoy's War and Peace. She did not like the Anthony Briggs one, and I think when I made my choice to go with the Mauds, it was for similar reasons that she referred to. Now, she mentioned in that video that it took her several tries, and she was committed to getting this one under her belt, so to speak. And I believe she did succeed in that. In her last couple of videos, she mentioned that she had finished The Brothers Karamazov, which was the final book on her classics bucket list. And I am very glad that she accomplished that. Pardon me. You know, one of the aspects that I have found that I dislike about social media is that I have a wider range of people that I know or know of that I have seen die. And it is a distressing aspect of becoming an old person. And in a case such as that of Jennifer Brooks, I am inclined to ask, why could it not have been me? When I was in 7th grade, I had a school classmate, Kathy Grayheck, and she was involved in a fatal accident, and she died. And she was a wonderful girl, and we will never know what kind of life she might have lived. We were just in 7th grade, and she was quite a person. I had great respect for her, even though I did not always treat her all that well. And she has been gone all these years now. And as a viewer of Jennifer's channel, although I don't think we had much interaction, I feel the same sense of loss. I will put a link to the video of hers that I mentioned, and invite you, if you have never seen her channel, to go through the backlog, and if a title jumps out at you, to take a look at it. She had a good way of talking about classics. She said that she was moving away from classics. And I think as we, I don't think she would have moved away from Victorian literature. But as we go through our reading career, there are inevitably going to be permutations, and you are going to change your focus here and there. So for now, I am pretty sure that when it comes to reading fiction, that my focus is likely to be, at least in the near future, big mammoth classics. So when I finish with War and Peace, I don't know how it will work out. I don't think I will attempt something like Swann's Way. I've read most of Swann's Way, but I have not read the whole set. I don't think I will attempt Proust or Proust anytime soon. But I have a good handful of Chinese epic novels waiting in the wings. In fact, yeah, here it is. The Journey to the West might be the next one that I attempt. And I've thought that I would like to just make my way one after another through these big epic novels. And so that was why I picked up USA by Dos Passos. I saw it when I was a child, basically. And it's a funny thing about a lot of these books. I passed them by thinking I could never do that. I know I looked at USA and thought there's no way that I could read something like that. And another book that I had passed sometime in my youth also was this. I had seen it here and there, and it never even occurred to me that, oh, that's something that I could read. With the Dos Passos, I thought, well, that's probably something I couldn't read. But now that I've devoted 2 solid years to reading, I have a little bit more stamina. And so I felt, when I realized that I had been padding my numbers with short books, I decided suddenly that I would tackle War and Peace as my first book in January. And I'm very glad that I have done so. Whereas I stalled early on the first time, now I'm pretty sure that I have the stamina, the drive, the ambition to make it through the whole thing, barring some unforeseen catastrophe or calamity that impedes me. I've had health crises that suddenly throw any forward movements toward reading off the rails completely, and I understand that that is the sword of Damocles we all live under, increasingly as we get older, but I think that I can continue with it. And as far as even any of the other ones, even Dos Passos perhaps, I think that I have the ability to focus on it and read it. And throughout the years, as I groped toward becoming a reader, the big novels always loomed largely as a goal, as a milestone perhaps, and now I see them as achievable milestones. So the first big novel I read was Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, and I remember nothing of it. I didn't love the book. I was fairly young. And then I've mentioned that when I worked at EFTPS, when it was just getting off the ground, I had downtime at the job, and so I decided to read Cervantes' Don Quixote. So that was the first big book in my adult period that I tackled, and was very pleased and felt a sense of accomplishment with that. Then maybe 8 years ago now, I tackled the Cairo trilogy, which is 3 separate novels, but they work together following the same characters. and The Tale of Genji. And once again, in both of those cases, I felt a sense of accomplishment. I had achieved something, I felt. And then some years later, I read a bunch of the Russians, and I tackled the Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. That was ultimately the last in a sequence of about 7 or 8 Russian novels that I read. And I think actually that excuse me a second. My throat's a little dry. That my experience of, sorry about that. Let's see. That my experience of that was not too far from that of Jennifer Brooks's when she read it. It was the capstone on her bucket list of classics that she wanted to read, and she says very interesting things about the book in one of her last 2 videos, and I had similar feelings, with the exception that I think she said that if you like the character of, is it Ayosha or whatever it is, the saintly one, that you would like his book, The Idiot. And in my case, I did not particularly like that character, and I did not like The Idiot, which I DNF'd beyond the halfway point. And in my case, I don't know that I will go back to Dostoevsky. But getting back to Mark at Book Time with Elvis's video, the thought of approaching these classic works, if you're somebody to whom reading does not come easy, all you can do is chip away at it. And for me, as I've said, the transition phase between not reading and reading is difficult. And so the first 50, 100 pages of any novel is more difficult for me than once you get into it. And so that's, for me, another reason, as with War and Peace or any similarly large tome, that for me, the reading of such might be a little bit easier. You find it's like you get on board a gigantic cruise ship that is moving forward slowly, as I say, imperceptibly. The major action, you don't have any idea where it's leading to as yet, but you know that you're making steady progress. And then the reading becomes not a matter of trying to accomplish X number of pages, trying to get to that destination, because it's a big book. And so you just chip away at it, and each time you dip in, you read a little bit. And so for me, that is working very well. And I've decided that I'm going to open up a little bit, and while I have a mammoth book as my main focus at any given time, I will open myself up to other little things to read simultaneously, but not as my number one priority. Now, I do 20 minutes a day of a book of American politics and history. So I'm reading Henry Adams's History of the United States. I do 20 minutes a day, and my calculation is that it will probably take me a full year to read all of that. But the positive thing there too is that when that year is up, I mean, the time is going to move forward ahead regardless. And then when you reach that point, by committing to that 20 minutes a day, you have finished it. And any of those, say those big Library of America volumes, I've felt rewarded in reading. As I say, you do feel a sense of accomplishment, but they are interesting reads and very worthwhile reads if you are interested in American history. And the more I read, the more I want to read, particularly anything pertaining to the Adamses. I read within the last couple of years the diaries of John Quincy Adams. And so I would like to go on to John Adams at some point, and even Abigail perhaps, and their letters. I have a little Penguin edition of the letters of the two, and maybe that will suffice. Or maybe if I happen to see some Library of America editions, somewhere, I'll pick those up and schedule them. We keep moving forward, of course, until we don't. And I don't know to what extent I want to go back and attempt things that I tried in the past but failed to accomplish. So, as I said, I'm very happy with War and Peace, that I am moving ahead. Another big book that I started reading many years ago was The Debate on the Constitution by the Library of America. So this is historical, and maybe I will slate that for after Henry Adams, maybe not. I was enjoying it, and then I had that health crisis I told you about, and at that point, reading did not occur for quite some time. Unfortunately, that was not the only well-laid scheme that went agley, gang after gley, is the line from Burns, that went astray. And I don't know that that keeping my focus on mammoths is something that that I will persist in beyond one or two tries. But I know that when I survey the vast shelves of my unread, that it is the big tomes that stand out to me. And the other advantage to reading them is that my experience with Anna Karenina notwithstanding, you do tend to retain a good amount of what you read. Perhaps I will find a copy of Les Mis or Les Miserables, however you say that, which Mark is a huge fan of. I think he said he had read it more than once, but I believe the latest Penguin edition is a completely unabridged version, and he speaks so highly of it that I might try something like that, although that would entail me having to pick up a copy, whereas something like this is sitting here just waiting. I enjoyed what I read of Proust, but it's such a big commitment. But here again, it's not something, I remember what I read there very well because it was recently, and so I don't think I would have to restart. I think I can just pick up where I left off, also because of the nature of the episodic nature of the writing. So these are just vague and general thoughts that I've had about future reading plans. It's a bit of a mess, this video, so I don't know if I should post it or not. But Mark's video conjured up some thoughts, and the untimely passing of Jennifer Brooks has me thinking as well, as inevitably the global catastrophe which is looming in terms of the weather or climate. So I don't think I accomplished very much, but thank you for stopping by my channel and devoting your time to this. I don't have a great sense of my imaginary booktube friends, as Steve Donahue says. I don't think anybody watching is imaginary. But unless somebody makes a comment, I don't really have a sense of people watching, even though some videos have numbers, more or less. But regardless, I appreciate your taking your time to listen to me ramble on. Thank you.